Okay, we're back now. I remember one time I was in Toastmasters and I had this challenge. I thought, would there be a way where while I'm waiting to actually talk about whatever the topic is, I could talk about ketchup or something to that effect? And what I'll say about ketchup, I actually learned recently how much sugar's in it. It's basically like a bottle full of sugar and it's red. And what we're actually going to talk about today in this video is expanding on a concept that we talked about a little bit yesterday, and that is what is it about trusting people and fear that causes micromanagement? And when you think about what that is it's people who and so they're behaving small, and that creates lots of challenges for everybody involved, including the small thinker themselves. And actually, Amber is here. Awesome. Okay, cool. So we've got the split screen going the other way.
It made
All
me
right.
turn my camera. So.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll be looking at you.
So yeah, I know we're gonna talk a bit about the idea of what is it that keeps people micromanaging, and what fear comes out of it, and the trust. And I know you're actually upside down now, which is a creative thing.
Okay.
Now you're back.
Okay.
You're back. So what kinds of thoughts do you have about that whole topic? The idea of why do you think people micromanage, and how can we stop it?
Well, sorry, my camera's crazy. Yeah, I think micromanaging is something that is just ingrained in a lot of companies, and I think a lot of people fear that if they don't do it, if they don't micromanage someone, that they just aren't going to do their job. And I know that is the case with some people. Like if you're working with someone that's super lazy, or someone that just doesn't tend to get the work done. But like you said, it goes along the lines of, if you trust people, I think people will tend to surprise you, right? And when they feel micromanaged, at least for me, I tend to kind of rebel against that type of behavior. And sometimes I won't get as much work done. And then it kind of like feeds into that cycle of, oh, we got to micromanage in order to make sure they're getting work done. Well, maybe we should just start by not doing that. That's my thought. So.
Yeah, it's so true. And I know Danae had some good comments yesterday. I know she's a coach that you work with. And I liked what she said about, Devaney. Yeah, so one of the things she said was it's about trust. And when I think about it, like when I have people that work alongside me, I view that as I'm investing in growth. And I don't hire people because I want them to work from a certain amount of hours, 5 days a week. Actually, if they can get, like Kristen, for example, she can get 5 days of work done in about a day and a half. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. So why should there be an incentive for her to slow down, right? If you can get the work done, and like, I don't care when she does it. I don't need to know. And I've always thought that way. It's like, the work's going to get done, and I don't even know how to do it. It reminds me of a Steve Jobs quote. Like, if I knew what needed to be done, I would do it. I hired you to figure out what we need to do. And I just always thought that was a good, way to think about what people are doing, and that we don't know how to do their job, so we just need to get out of their way.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And, I think there's also a difference between people who have administrative type of jobs, right? And it's task oriented, right? So it's like they just need to get these amount of tasks, like these certain things done, and then they're done. Whereas some people are more so like, setting meetings, and essentially, like if you're commission based, right? Like you get paid on what work you do, essentially. And that's what I've always enjoyed, because I like to get paid for how hard I work, kind of thing. Not get paid the same no matter what. And so to micromanage people that are in that sort of scenario, it's always been odd to me as well, because it's like, if they don't do their job, they don't get paid. So they're kind of, yeah. So I think that if a leader thinks people that they are trying to lead are not getting the work done, then there needs to be like a deeper conversation as far as like what is driving that thought. And if the person isn't getting their work or whatever it is needing to get done, then maybe diving deeper into why. That to me would be more helpful than just someone saying, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Right. Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, and the rebellion piece, like I'm the same way. Like if somebody's like, it's like, give me some space here, you know? It's like, calm down. I'm getting stuff done. And I think it makes things worse for everybody. I doubt it's fun for the person, like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? You know, how come you're not logged in or whatever? Because what are they getting done when they're doing that, right? Because they're somebody isn't working, perhaps. And to me, that doesn't work, right? It creates a dynamic and an incentive that's not good for anybody.
It's like, so just don't hire people that you don't think are going to work. Bottom line.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and to your point, it doesn't mean that there's not a conversation, right? There's not conversations about, okay, how can we get better? How can we all grow? Giving each other feedback, creating a safe space. It makes me think of somebody you and I both know, Roberto Espinoza. I've had a conversation with him where he said sometimes people that are on the team with us, I mean, sometimes it's a career for them, until they retire. Other times they grow in different directions, and I support that. And I thought of him, related to that other topic, like he's saying, hey, I support your growth, even though it's not here. I wish you would stay, but I want what's best to you. I mean, for you, what comes to mind for you with that, related topic?
Well, I love that topic. And I think, and Roberto, he's awesome. He's in my office. I don't get to see him all the time, but I do get to work with him. And so, yeah, he's great. And I think that what you just said goes back to like caring about the person on an individual or on a personal level, instead of just having a work relationship. And so like, I actually have a quote written down that I'm not sure who said it. So sorry if I'm not like giving whoever said this credit, but I think it goes to what you're saying in a really good way. And it basically says that like some people aren't loyal to you, they're loyal to their need of you. And once their need changes, so does their loyalty. Right. So that just like when I hear friends, going through issues where say they love where they work, but they got a better opportunity and they give their notice and suddenly everybody starts treating them differently. And they're like, well, I thought that they would be happy for me, that they would support me. And that's when I kind of found that quote, because it's so true. That's when you really find out if someone actually cared about you as a person and wants to, follow your journey, versus they just cared what you're doing for them. And then now that you're not doing anything for them, they don't really care what happens to you, which is unfortunate, but it's a real thing.
Can you read that quote again? It was so awesome.
It says, so it goes, some people aren't loyal to you, they're loyal to their need of you. Once their need changes, so does their loyalty.
Okay, that has application everywhere, and the notion of truly being happy for somebody. So if somebody says, hey, I'm going to go, to law school, or to go, move across the country, this big opportunity, whatever it is, that we aren't loyal to people as much as we're loyal to their need for us in many instances. And if we can override that, I think we can be far better leaders and friends too. I mean, how many times, and I've noticed this, friends change, and sometimes, there's a small group that wants you to succeed, and there's another group that says they do, and when you do, they're threatened by it. But guess what? If I succeed at something, that doesn't take away anything from you, Amber, or anybody else. It's like, that's what I think people are missing, right? And it's like, and you can see it, their real motives, like, oh, you actually did get that opportunity. Well, now I don't like you,
right? Yeah, it's so true, and it's unfortunate, and I don't think that it's that everybody, the people that are like that they're necessarily bad people. I mean, some of them definitely, sure, there are bad people out there, but this brings me to like another quote, because like I had this other quote that I think really kind of, when it comes to like what you were saying as far as people not being happy for you, like when you get promoted or when you get something that they're not getting. But I like this quote because it reminds me that to not take it as personal. And it basically says that other people aren't necessarily against you, they're just for themselves. Good one, right? I don't know who said that either.
Oh,
but so I'm curious what you think of that. That the people aren't necessarily against you. That some people, I mean, obviously, but other people aren't necessarily against you. Sometimes it's just that they're for themselves.
Well, I love that one, and it makes me think about ego, and I just want to move. So let's think about that one for a minute. Like, does somebody immediately become a bad person when they no longer serve our needs of, hey, I'm not going to work anymore, I'm going to another company? and it's not like good company and bad company. Everybody over there can't actually be bad, right? So to support somebody, and I say, well, yeah, it was better for me than you were here. I think that's such a great point, right? It's like, I'll support you if it serves me, and I won't if it doesn't. I mean, sadly, that sums it up pretty nicely. And I think in a professional setting, what's weird to me is like, hey, we're a family here. We're family. We blah blah blah. Unless you do one of these 5 things, and then you're a terrible person. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not really how things should work.
Yeah, I've actually read about the family. It was an article. I'll have to find it and send it to you sometime. It was about the dynamic of when you work for a company or with a group or with a team, and they say that it's like family. You know, typically when we hear that, it gives us a good feeling because we all want to feel like we're surrounded by family all the time. But there are, I mean, and I think that most companies say it with good intention, right? And I don't think that some of them realize that what it actually does, and maybe some of them do, I'm not sure, but what it actually does is it in our minds, if we switch to thinking that like the people we work with are like a family, then we don't feel as guilty when we start to give that team or that job more time than our actual family, right? And then we work longer hours, and it makes us, so it's, some companies do use it as a manipulative type of way to get you to like feel better about the fact that you're probably putting too much time into that work family, right? And it's not really a family if you think about it, for the most part, because our family, we're supposed to have like unconditional love, right? It's supposed to be like, even when you mess up, we'll still support you, whatever you decide to do. But that work family, right? They, like you said, it's usually conditional. It's like, if you do these things, and if you mess this up, or you don't hit this goal, or decide that maybe another career is a better opportunity for you, well, then, they're suddenly not even going to be your friends, much less like your family, right? So it's very interesting dynamic.
I'm glad you brought it up. It's almost like a cult, right? Yeah. Like if you're in, whichever fill in the blank it might be, hey, that's awesome, and we're going to do everything we can for you until we take everything from you or don't need you anymore, or until you figure out this is a cult and you leave. Like, I think you're so right. It's like, yeah, it's manipulative, and it's not authentic, right? It's like we can get along with people, especially like got a dynamic of somebody reports to somebody and then she reports to somebody else. Well, it's not like we're all best friends, right? It can't be that way, because there's got to be some level of professionalism and separation. And what you said too, I'm just laughing about, conditional support, conditional love. It's like, it doesn't last very long. So we might as well be honest with it and just say, hey, we work together. As long as you work here, we'll probably be nice to you. But if you don't, then we're not. Or if you're not willing to work 12 hours a day, right? It's like, I mean, that's the implicit culture. I mean, I'm here in San Francisco, and in the old world, there were shuttles that took people down to Google, Apple, all the tech companies. And everybody's like, oh, this is so great. We have Wi-Fi. Guess why they have Wi-Fi?
So they can work.
Better be working. Exactly. Hey, I saw Amber. Were you like listening to a podcast on the shuttle? I mean,
were you talking to your mom? Like, how dare you?
Right. Oh, your actual family. Yeah. That's a good test. So, like, what do you think is a better framework? Like, what would be a healthier way to think about people that we work with?
Well, I think it just depends too, because for example, I have had different types of, work relationships within the same company. For example, I won't name any companies specifically, but I know I remember leaving a company in the past, and, you typically aren't supposed to tell them like, here's all the reasons why this is, but usually, saying, I need to do what's best for me, and make a change, and this change is what's best for me. Well, I remember I said that one time to a supervisor, and later on found out that they were all like, oh, she's doing what's best for her. Like, I guess who cares what's best for the company? I'm like, aren't we all supposed to be doing what's best for ourselves, right? And so I wasn't surprised at all. However, at that same company, I was actually surprised when HR reached out to me, and they do their little exit interview, and, why did you leave, and this kind of stuff. And when I explained the opportunity that I was going to, they actually got really excited for me. They were like, that is awesome. Like, I would leave too and go do that. Like, that is a great opportunity. Like, you're going to do so great. Keep us like in the loop. We want to hear from you. We want to know how it's going. And so, I think it can be to where within the same company, you just have different dynamics. And I think it comes down to like what type of leader, what type of coworker you want to be to others, so, for me, I've never actually like been a leader over a team of people, or had my own employees. But, we were talking the other day about how you don't have to have a title of a manager or a leader to be a leader. And so I feel like, whenever I was like whenever I work anywhere and a coworker that I really enjoy working with leaves to go to like a better opportunity for them, I get sad because I won't see them every day, but I also get really happy for them that they're doing what is best for them and their family. And so, yeah, I don't really necessarily know how to tell to tell people in leadership or management positions to, to be better or care, but honestly, I would just say like care more about your people for who they are and care about maybe their personal growth more than what they are doing for your company or for your best interest, right? Because if you honestly have someone's best interest in mind or at heart, then they can tell. And I think they're more likely to stay even if they do get another opportunity or offer or something, because they feel that the fact that you care. So I don't know if that makes sense or not, or answered your question, but.
It makes total sense. It's like, so the example of a company is a big organization. A company can't have feelings, right? A company basically pursues profit. That's what companies are supposed to do. But people within those companies can be supportive and change the culture of that company, and they can, in my opinion, be more profitable in that way. So if you think about, like, let's say you were the people that still worked at that company, and your leaders or bosses or whoever, like, hey, Amber has this great opportunity. We're so excited for her. We were really fortunate that she worked here for however many years, and Amber, we support you. Whatever we can do to help you in your new journey, I know there's going to be ways for us to do that, and we're so excited for you. Well, okay, if I'm still there, I'm like, I love this place. They're actually advocating for me. They actually, if I have something that I want to do, I can trust this is a place where I can safely tell them, and they're going to support me. So, I mean, what does that do for the culture, right? It has to make everybody still left. They're happy. They feel supported, and the level of trust goes up, versus if a person doesn't feel supported, they're gonna cover up mistakes and do all kinds of other things that aren't healthy.
Yeah, and what you said about the culture is so true. Within most companies, and excuse me, even like whatever company it is, there is an underlying culture, right? That, and it's interesting that you said that, because I think, yeah, if you feel supported by the people on your level and people directly above you, or like the leaders on the highest level, you'll feel more comfortable. Like, for example, when I whenever I leave places, they're like, well, if it doesn't work out, you're always welcome to come back. But the way that they treat me in that transition process tells me I would never go back, even if like, in my mind, like, failure is not a thing. But say if I went somewhere else and I was just like, yeah, this isn't for me, I kind of missed the last place, their behavior always like makes me know that I made the right decision by leaving. And so it's about the whole like don't burn bridges thing. But back to what you're saying about culture, I think culture is so huge. And I'm curious, like, if people at the highest level, because I know, have an idea in their mind of what the culture of their company is, like what it's made out of and what they want it to be, maybe or they want other people to see it as. But I wonder if they ever realize, I've wondered this with a lot of places I've worked, if they realize that, like when you go to like the individual team levels or the different places you go, the culture's different at each place. And I think it usually goes back to whoever's on top, or whoever's, they always say like it, trickles down from the top. And so, you might have a company that's saying like their CEO or whoever is like, this is the culture that we have, and it's great. And that might be what people see on the outside. But once you're in there and you go down a couple steps, you realize, well, you're like looking at the culture of the CEO same, but you're looking at your direct manager or whoever, and they're like toxic and just making it a terrible place to work. And they wonder why the retention isn't great,
Yeah. Okay. So the topic of incentives, I think, relates to this. So suppose the CEO says, hey, we've got this great culture here. It's amazing. We support each other. We lift each other up. And that might be true, right? Like at Wells Fargo, maybe a bad example with the account opening scandal. Well, you know what was just preposterous about that to me? They weren't even making any money. They lost their reputation in a big way. It still, haunts them. And there was no money to be made. But what happened was there was the incentive. Amber, we need you to open up 20 accounts a day or whatever it is. And if you don't, well, you're probably not going to work here much longer, and you're definitely not going to get a bonus, and you suck, right? And so and to be that, and guess what? Well, the branch managers had to report to somebody, to somebody, to somebody. So before you know it, it was coming from the top, even though they weren't in those banks. And so, like, how dumb is that, right? To have this unethical behavior. Not that it's okay to be unethical, but man, why, like, not even making any money from your bad behavior. Like, so to me, that was a perfect example of like perverse incentives and all the bad things that can come out of it. And I know there's a lot of examples that aren't that extreme, but I'm curious, what do you think about with the concept of incentives?
I think that is such a great point. And I think it comes back to like, that recognition is a lot of the times a bigger motive than money is. And I think that, excuse me, that some people, some companies say like, yeah, if you do this, we'll give you $500 or we'll give you a gift card to do this. But typically, I think they don't realize that people, like as a human, our deeper needs are the need to feel like we belong, right? The need to feel like that we are recognized for our hard work, or the need to make others proud, kind of thing, more so than the money. And so I know as far as incentives, when it's money is concerned, they've actually proven in all these different studies that I've read about how money doesn't push people as much as like pretty much anything else. But sorry, these allergies are killing me, guys. If y'all are in Texas, this oak is like, it's oak season. So that's why everything's yellow outside. So, but yeah, I read actually this thing about how people that are the happiest in their respective careers, even if they have the same exact jobs and say their job is doing the same thing every single day, the ones that are the happiest are the ones that feel connected to like the larger vision and feel that what they are doing every single day is having an impact on the lives of others, and and that they belong, basically in an environment that is going to like incentivize hard work and you helping people. So if you incentivize like, just production, like you were saying at Wells Fargo, they did all these things and they weren't even making extra money. They were just literally, it was just for the recognition. It was just that made them look good and made their managers look good. And it does show how toxic recognition can be if not done properly or for the right reasons, right? And so I think that is a huge thing, and I'm sure there are companies that have gotten it right. I have yet to see it personally, but I'm sure it's hard.
Well, what actually created like the devil behind the whole Wells Fargo thing, because I don't know if this just popped in my head, but there's a quarterly earnings, right? Companies have quarterly earnings reports, and the issue with them is there was a concept of cross-selling, basically. So they were thinking, we want you to have multiple products here, multiple accounts, right? And it was legit, I think, for a while. Oh, you're setting up an IRA, or you're doing this, you're doing that. But it created that incentive system. And I think I guess the argument is, well, they made money because it boosted their stock price, but it was all like it was fake, right? And to your point, totally separate topic, I think it's fascinating. Daniel Pink has written about incentives, and I think the book's called Drive, where he talks about that. And multiple research studies have shown that as far as happiness goes, there is a point where you have to have a certain amount of money to pay for stuff. Beyond that, it makes me think more money, more problems. Remember that song? So the number is like 75 grand. Now, I would say in San Francisco, it's a higher number, but it's not $1 million, right? So like, what comes to mind for you with regard to like, at your point earlier about being part of a cause as opposed to, making an extra 10 grand a year in salary?
Yeah. And honestly, I think it depends on the person, right? So I wonder if there would ever be a way to figure out, what drives each individual person, instead of making it like a blanket, like, if y'all do this goal, then we'll put your picture on Facebook, or if you like do this, then we'll, give you a gift card, or like you said, like a bonus. I wonder, because some people are motivated by like the money aspect, because in their mind, more money, they earned that extra money, right, by doing these certain things. But some people don't really, they say they prefer to have extra time off to spend more time with their family, right? Or maybe some better benefits, or maybe like a better 401k plan, And so there's different things, or some people are just good with like a, hey, pat on the back, you're doing great. And then I know some people who are just, they would like their reward, in a sense, to be left alone to do what they need to do. And they just I don't want to be in the spotlight, I don't want extra money, just literally leave me alone and I will do my job great. But as soon as you try to like get in there and nitpick what I'm doing, it's all gonna fall apart. And I lost what I was gonna say next, but yeah, I think that's a huge thing. And so, individualized rewards, I think, I don't know how realistic that is in like the corporate world, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think that is super important.
Well, no, I think you're right. I mean, as we wrap up, the concept that you bring to mind is simply, a great leader works with each person individually, right? I mean, it's like there's people that are responsible for thousands of employees or workers, and yet there's also people that have within that, okay, 3 people have a direct input. Well, so if you've got 3 people, they're not all the same, right? I think that's the point. Some people like to be pushed and challenged in more of a like, hey, if you don't do this, you're fired kind of way, which, arguably may not be that healthy. And others, it's more of a, hey, we believe in you. You can do this. What resources do you need, right? I think a great leader can lead people who are different than the leader. Right. I think that's so important, right? Because we tend to assume people think like we do, and you and I know that's not really even true.
Yeah. Have you ever had a leader where you felt, because I have one more quote that I have to like throw out there because it's a great one too.
Yes.
But I'm curious if this reminds you of any leaders you've had or people that you've worked with. And it's basically that some people would push you off of a ledge just to catch you and say they saved your life.
Oh.
Which I think I could name so many people,
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen that, it's like, yeah, I want to get credit for saving you, even though I caused the problem, right?
Right.
But I took the doctor. Yeah, no, that's and you know what I think it is, by the way? I think leaders are afraid to be outgrown. So the concept of leaving and moving on, it's like, hey, you made me feel small because I'm still here. Well, no, you chose to feel small, and you can grow and stay, or you can grow and go. But support those that leave, because if they were someone you liked yesterday and support them today too, unless there was some ethical lapse or something.
Yeah. And I think it all goes back to what you said about like leaders versus managers. Managers manage people, leaders build people and help them grow and get better. Whether or not that means that they may get better at something than them, right? They may climb whatever ladder it is faster than them. But I think real leaders, that to them, like building someone from like knowing nothing to outperforming their performance or whatever it is, that's like their biggest, like they're proud of that, right? Like real leaders, like they want you to do your best.
Yeah.
They don't hold you down. And I think there's so many, and I think it just like comes back to like being fear-based versus abundance. Most leaders I think are just naturally, or maybe not naturally, maybe they had to work on it, but they're abundance mindsets. So they know the better everybody does around them, the better they're going to do. Not, oh, if you do better than me, then it makes me look bad or dumb or whatever. And so I have to keep you small. So yeah.
Make you look good because you hired me, right? I'm part of your, I grow, you grow. But yeah, it's so simple. And yet I think that's what makes a good leader rare, because a good leader, she's going to say, hey, I want your success. I am so vested in your success. It means everything to me, as opposed to, hey, if you crush more than I crushed when I was crushing whatever you crushed, right?
Yeah, it's so true. I think we just all need to support each other and be happy for the successes of others, and know that, when other people are successful, it doesn't make you look less successful. And, maybe we should all just focus more on our own stuff. you know, they say, I think, you know, a good quote would be like, crushers are too busy crushing, like your shirt says, too busy crushing to worry about what everybody else is doing. They're just crushing, right? And if you're too worried about what everybody else is doing, then you're definitely not crushing and doing something else. So.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I think Bob's quote right there, rising tide lifts all boats, right? So yeah, let's go up together. I think that's a good way to wrap up. Amber, anything else you want to add?
I think that is it. I think, you know, one thing my coach did teach me when I started coaching with her is never burn bridges. And I'll say that along the lines of all these, whether people have treated you well or not, the importance of never burning bridges is one of the biggest lessons I've learned. And it has come back tenfold. In the sense that people are now, I'm working with people and helping people now that that I maybe would have wanted to tell them something, right, whenever I was like leaving that situation, but I didn't. I just like held my tongue and took the high road, and it's always come back in a positive way. So would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah, there's everything to gain by being graceful, even when we're not being treated that way. Yeah. You know, I think it's not burning bridges. Just life has a funny way of moving around. So I think you're 100% accurate on that.
Well, thanks for having me on here, Will. It's fun as always.
Yeah, fun in the tiny pieces.
All right. Bye.
Until next time.